You ever get that feeling something's off, but you can't quite say what? That's how it started with Ava. My name's Nathan. I'm 36. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I've been a marine biologist for about a decade. Ava and I met at a charity auction, me in a salt-stained windbreaker, her in a black dress and heels that looked like they belonged in a museum more than she did. Somehow it worked. We've been married 4 years. Together for 6. Until now, we were the predictable kind of couple. Shared groceries, Sunday meal prep, separate hobbies but overlapping shows. It was a quiet, dependable life. I liked it that way. But lately, Ava's changed. It started small. She'd come home late, talking about this traveling exhibit schedule. I knew her museum brought in art from all over, Renaissance paintings 1 month, ancient pottery the next. But those events were always planned months in advance. I would have heard something before. I usually did. I was at the storage facility, Nathan, she said one night, tossing her coat on the chair instead of hanging it like she used to. Those new Grecian urns are a nightmare to catalog. Grecian? I asked, trying to remember if she'd mentioned it. I thought the next exhibit was Japanese textiles. She blinked for half a second. That's the next one. This one's just a small side project. You know how it is. I nodded even though I didn't. Ava was always organized. She had color-coded to-do lists for each exhibit. She used to tell me about them over breakfast. But now she barely looked up from her coffee. Then there was the phone. Ava never used to care where her phone was. It'd be in her bag or sometimes left in the kitchen overnight charging. But a couple weeks ago, she started taking it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. Once, I heard it buzz while she was in the shower. She didn't call back, didn't say who it was. Just slipped it into her robe pocket and changed the subject. I tried to shake the feeling off. Maybe I was being paranoid. I've always had this anxious side, it's part of why I took up diving. Something about deep water calmed me. But then she stopped touching me. Not all at once. It was gradual. Less hand-holding, fewer kisses goodbye. One night she sat beside me on the couch, scrolling through her phone while I tried to talk about my trip to Monterey. I'd just gotten back from tagging sea lions. She used to be fascinated by that stuff. Did you know some sea lions can dive for up to 10 minutes? I said, nudging her knee. I finally tagged a big male off Point Lobos. Massive head scar. Probably from a propeller. She murmured, eyes never leaving the screen. I watched her thumb move slowly like she was rereading something important. I started noticing inconsistencies. She said she had dinner with Elaine from work, but when I asked what they ate, she said duck ramen. I looked up the place. It didn't serve duck. Maybe I got the restaurant name wrong, she shrugged. Elaine, when I ran into her a few days later, said she'd been sick all week. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Ava snored lightly beside me. A year ago, I would have reached for her hand. That night, I didn't move. I wasn't ready to confront her. I didn't even want to know, not yet. But the doubt was planted deep and cold like an anchor. So I waited. And I watched. It was a Wednesday night when I decided to check. Ava had left just after 6, pecked me on the cheek like always. Don't wait up, she said, slipping on that gray peacoat she only wore when she wanted to look impressive. We're staying late to finish prepping the exhibit. What exhibit? I asked casually, stirring spaghetti on the stove. The urns, she said, like I should have known. She didn't mention where. I assumed the museum. She assumed I wouldn't ask. But something in her voice sounded rehearsed. I gave it 30 minutes, just enough time for her to get across town, and then I grabbed my keys. The museum wasn't far, 15 minutes down 405. I knew the route by heart. I'd driven Ava to work plenty of times when her car was in the shop. She always talked about how eerie the building looked at night, with its limestone columns and flickering security lights. But that night, it was silent. Too silent. I parked half a block away and walked past the entrance, trying to look like a guy on an evening stroll. The whole place was dark. Not just closed, lifeless. No cars out front. No lights inside. Not even the soft glow of the security office. I pulled my jacket tighter and circled the block. Nothing. The museum had closed at 5. I checked their site just to be sure. No extended hours. No events. No special exhibits. Just a clean, sterile, open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. stamped across the homepage. I drove home slowly, trying to think of any reason why Ava would lie. Maybe she'd gone somewhere else for a work meeting? Maybe she meant another location? Maybe she'd stopped for dinner first? But every maybe was just another way of avoiding the obvious. When I got home, I went through the motions. Rinsed dishes, fed the cat, sat down with my laptop open but didn't type a word. At 9:42, Ava walked in. Her coat was off, hair pulled back in a lazy bun. She looked tired, but not flustered. "Long day," she said, dropping her bag by the door. "At the museum?" I asked. She paused for half a beat. "Yeah. Inventory took forever." I nodded, pretending to believe her. "Hope the urns survived." That made her blink. "Oh, right. They did. Barely." She walked to the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, and asked if I'd already eaten. I told her yes, and she just nodded like she'd expected that. Later, in bed, she talked about a coworker named Lucas, someone I'd never heard of, and how he was screwing up the display notes. I asked what he looked like, and she shrugged. Average. Tallish. Quiet guy. I didn't press. But her story had holes. Lucas didn't show up in any of her work stories before. When I checked the museum staff directory the next day, there was no one by that name. I was starting to realize that Ava's world was no longer mine. And the harder I tried to keep up with it, the more I saw it slipping away. It happened on a Tuesday night. Ava was in the shower. I was in the kitchen pretending to read an article on my phone, though I couldn't focus on a single word. She had come home even later than usual, claiming the museum's freight elevator broke down, and they had to hand carry the pieces one by one. "I'm drenched," she laughed. "I smell like concrete dust." She didn't. She smelled like lavender and cologne I didn't recognize. As the water hissed from upstairs, I stood in the living room, staring at her purse slung casually over the back of the chair. It was a leather tote, wide, soft, the kind she always kept zipped tight. Except tonight it wasn't. I don't know what pushed me. Maybe it was the lie about the elevator, or the way she barely looked at me anymore. Or maybe it was just instinct, that primal, gut-level whisper that something was wrong. I moved fast, unzipped. My fingers brushed receipts, a pack of gum, a lipstick cap. Then something hard, tucked beneath a notebook. Small, cold, out of place. A flip phone. One of those prepaid ones you buy at gas stations, the kind criminals use in bad movies. It was off. I hesitated, heart pounding, then flipped it open and pressed the power button. It lit up with a chirp. No passcode. The message icon blinked. I opened it. The first text hit like a wave. I keep thinking about our time on the couch. The couch. Our couch. Another message. I can't stop remembering our time in the shower. I gripped the edge of the counter to keep from falling. More texts followed. Dozens. All signed off with E. Some short. Some filthy. All recent. And the worst part? They weren't vague. They mentioned things only someone who had been here would know. You left a trace on his pillow. Bold. It wasn't just an affair. It was happening here, in my home, while I was at work, while I was tagging seals, while I was giving lectures at Portland State about coral bleaching. He had been here, on my couch, in my bed, with her. I took photos of the messages with my phone. Shaking hands, fast, paranoid she'd walk down any second. Then I turned the flip phone off, slid it back where I found it, zipped the purse shut, and backed away like I was leaving a crime scene. The water was still running. Ava was humming softly, some pop song. I sat down at the kitchen table, knees weak, stomach churning, stared at the grain of the wood. Nothing had ever felt so small, so ugly, so final. When she came downstairs 20 minutes later in a towel, smiling like everything was fine, I didn't say a word. I just stared at her, and she didn't even notice. I waited 3 days. 3 days of pretending everything was normal. 3 days of Ava laughing at the news, asking if I'd picked up almond milk, dropping casual lies like they were just part of the air. I memorized the way she deflected, the way she looked past me, not at me, like I'd already disappeared. But I hadn't. Not yet. Saturday afternoon, I told her I needed to talk. She was folding laundry in the bedroom, humming something off-key. She didn't look up. "What's up?" she asked, flipping a shirt into a drawer. I stood in the doorway, heart thudding. "I found the phone, Ava." She froze mid-fold. Her fingers clenched the edge of a towel just a little too tightly. Then she slowly turned toward me. "What phone?" she asked, voice light, cautious. I didn't move. "The one in your purse." The prepaid flip phone. The one with the messages from E. For a long moment, she just blinked at me, like I was speaking another language. Then her face hardened. You went through my stuff? That's what you're leading with? I said, stepping further into the room. Not the fact that you've been sleeping with someone in our house? On our couch? I can't believe you went through my purse, she said again, louder this time. Do you realize how invasive that is? I do, I said quietly. Almost as invasive as finding out someone else has been in my bed. Her face twisted. You're unbelievable. No, Ava, I said, voice rising. You are. Do you want to deny it? Should I read the messages back to you? I took photos. She didn't speak. For the first time since I started suspecting, Ava didn't have a lie ready. She sat down on the edge of the bed, hands in her lap, staring at the floor. I didn't plan for it to happen, she mumbled. I laughed sharp, humorless. Wow, that's original. You don't understand, Nathan, she said, finally looking up. I felt like I was suffocating. You and your routines, your lists, the damn ocean documentaries. Everything in our life was so expected. You mean stable, I said. Consistent. Safe. Boring, she snapped, then quickly looked away. There it was. The truth. I gave you everything I had, I said, my voice trembling. I loved you. I trusted you. I believed you were just tired, not emptying yourself out for someone else. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look guilty. Instead, she stood and crossed her arms. Maybe we should separate. Maybe this marriage wasn't what either of us thought it was. I swallowed hard. Who is he? She hesitated. It doesn't matter. I think it does. She shook her head, jaw clenched. He's not the issue. We are. I didn't reply. What was left to say? Ava walked past me, calm as ever, like the conversation hadn't just burned a hole through her marriage. She pulled out her phone as she climbed the stairs. I could hear her voice drifting down a minute later. Hey, can you talk? Not even pretending anymore. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the spot where she'd just been. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. Our home, our marriage, our life, none of it meant anything to her anymore. She was already gone. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling while Ava snored lightly beside me like she hadn't just detonated our marriage with a shrug. My mind spun with a single question, who the hell is E? I couldn't let it go. Sunday morning, while Ava was at yoga or whatever excuse she gave this time, I started digging. I knew her passcodes, not that she'd left anything obvious. Her main phone was scrubbed clean. Nothing in her texts, call logs, emails. But something about her behavior told me she hadn't been careful with everything. I found the receipts in our shared credit card account. A lunch charge at a seafood place she claimed to hate. A wine bar in the middle of a weekday. A convenience store, prepaid phone, one item, cashback. I cross-checked dates. They lined up perfectly with the late nights she claimed were exhibit prep. Then I checked our Nest camera archives. I'd installed them last year when someone broke into a neighbor's house. Ava didn't know I kept the older footage stored remotely. I opened the folder. Started scrubbing through. And there it was. Wednesday afternoon, 2:17 p.m. Ava unlocks the front door in broad daylight. She's smiling, flushed, laughing at something. Behind her? My cousin Eric. Tall. Cocky. Commercial pilot. The same guy who used to toss me beer in college and tell everyone how proud he was of little Nate. I hadn't seen him in months, but he was always a name Ava brought up casually, fondly when the family got together. They kissed in the entryway like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then she took his hand. And they walked upstairs. To my bedroom. To my goddamn bedroom. I slammed the laptop shut, shaking. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or throw up. Of all the people. Eric had been like an older brother to me growing up, the guy I called for advice, the guy who showed up at my graduation with a bottle of whiskey and a framed photo of us fishing when I was 10. I had trusted him. He had come into my home, into my marriage, and defiled both without a second thought. I watched the clip again, just to be sure. Same laugh. Same familiarity. Same betrayal. I sat in the dark for over an hour, elbows on my knees, head in my hands. I wasn't just watching my marriage crumble. I was watching a piece of my past die with it. Ava hadn't just chosen someone. She'd chosen him. And suddenly, the betrayal wasn't just marital, it was blood deep. Family deep. And it wrecked something inside me I didn't even know was still whole. I didn't tell Ava I knew. Not right away. I needed time. Time to plan, time to breathe through the rage. 2 days later, I sent out 2 texts. One to Ava. I'd like to have dinner at home tonight. Just us. We need to talk. And one to Eric. Need to talk, man. Come by the house around 8. Got a family thing I could use your help with. I cleaned the house. Lit candles like it was going to be some romantic reconciliation. I even cooked Ava's favorite garlic salmon with asparagus and wild rice. The whole setup felt fake, but I needed her off guard. She came in around 7:30, hanging up her coat like she hadn't detonated my life a week ago. "This is nice," she said, sniffing the air. "What's the occasion?" "Thought it was time we stopped avoiding things," I said, setting the plates down. She gave me a long, guarded look. "Okay." We ate mostly in silence. She asked about work. I lied and said it was fine. My heart was thudding the entire time. At 8:01 p.m., the doorbell rang. Ava's fork froze midair. "Expecting someone?" she asked. "Yep," I said, standing slowly. "Just family." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't say a word. I opened the door and let Eric in. He looked smug, casual. Like this was just any other day. Same leather jacket, same confident grin. "Hey man," he said, reaching in for a hug. I didn't move. "Come on in." He stepped inside and saw Ava. The second their eyes met, everything changed. Ava went pale. "Nathan, what is this?" I closed the door behind him calmly. "I know," I said. "Everything." Eric looked between us, confused. "No, what?" "The phone," I said. "The texts. The videos. You in my house. You in my bed." Ava stood, eyes wide, lips parting like she might explain. "Nathan." "Don't," I said, sharp. "Not another lie." Eric stepped forward, his expression shifting. "Hey, look, let's not make this a thing. You and Ava obviously had problems." I cut him off with a laugh. "Unreal. You're gonna stand in my living room and make this my fault." He shrugged. "It's not like that." "No? Then what's it like, Eric?" I said, voice rising. "What's it like betraying your own blood? Sleeping with your cousin's wife like it's some damn game?" Eric's face twisted. "You don't know what she told me. She didn't have to tell me anything. I've seen it all." I pulled my phone out and tapped the video. The clip of them walking into my house together, hand in hand, like I didn't exist. I turned the screen toward them both. Ava's mouth opened. Eric's fists clenched. "I should be furious with you," I said, stepping forward. "But I'm not going to jail for either of you." Eric's jaw twitched. "You're not going to talk to me like that." "Or what?" I said, eyes locked on his. "You'll do to me what you did to my life?" Then he snapped. He lunged, fist swinging. I dodged the first punch, caught the second on my shoulder, and we went crashing into the table. Dishes shattered. Ava screamed. We struggled for a moment. He was bigger, but I was furious. I landed a punch to his ribs. He got me in the jaw. My vision blurred. My hand brushed against something sharp on the floor. He saw it too late. I stood, holding it low, blade trembling in my grip. "Back off." He froze, panting. "You're crazy." "No," I said. "I'm done being quiet." Eric turned, stormed out without another word. Ava stayed frozen, standing near the wall, hands shaking. I looked at her one last time. "You let him in." She didn't deny it. And that was all I needed to know. I pressed charges the next morning. Assault. Trespassing. Property damage. It didn't matter that Eric was my cousin. It didn't matter that we shared 100 childhood memories and the same last name on our family tree. He laid his hands on me. He stepped into my house and tried to beat the truth back into silence. So I filed the report, handed the footage to the officer, and gave a detailed statement. They took it seriously. Apparently, the knife on the floor, the one I never even used, was enough for them to flag it as a volatile domestic incident. The cop asked if Ava had threatened me too. "She didn't touch me," I said. "But she let him in?" he asked. I nodded. "More than once." Later that week, I filed for divorce. My lawyer, a calm woman named Elise with sharp eyes and zero patience for infidelity, took one look at the texts and the video and said, "We'll make this clean." She won't walk away smiling. I expected Ava to be angry, maybe try to spin some defense about confusion or emotional neglect. Instead, she avoided me altogether. No calls. No texts. No apology. But my family? That was a different story. My mother called the night I filed. "Nathan, this is going too far." "Too far?" I said. He attacked me. She exhaled heavily. "But it's Eric. You grew up together. He's family." He's the one who forgot that. My father's message came the next morning. "Don't ruin your life out of spite. Let this go. Let it go." They all said the same thing. My older sister called me selfish. My aunt told me I was airing private matters in public. Eric's mother called me screaming, said I was trying to destroy her son's life over a mistake. Not one of them asked how I was doing. Not one asked what it felt like to walk in on a life gutted from the inside. I moved out a week after serving Ava the papers. Packed a couple bags. left the keys on the counter, and walked away from the house I'd picked out for both of us. I left the couch. I left the bed. I didn't want anything that had touched that version of us. Elise called that Friday. The prosecutors moving forward. Eric's been charged. There's a restraining order in place. No contact. I thanked her and hung up, sitting alone in my temporary apartment with bare walls and borrowed furniture. No family. No house. No wife. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel crazy. I felt clear. Let them defend each other. Let them whisper about me behind holiday dinners. I wasn't part of that anymore, and I didn't want to be. The hearing was set for mid-June. By then, I'd been living in a furnished apartment for over a month. I had new routines, quiet ones. No Ava, no family group chats, no late-night texts begging for forgiveness. Just me, and silence, and the weight of what was coming. The courthouse was smaller than I expected. A long, beige hallway with buzzing fluorescent lights. The air too cold and too dry. I wore a gray suit, not to impress anyone, just to feel like I still had control over something. Eric was already there when I arrived. He sat at the defendant's table in a navy blazer he clearly borrowed, jaw tight, hands folded like a schoolboy in detention. I didn't look at him. I looked at Ava. She sat in the second row, alone, hair pulled back tight, face unreadable. I wondered if she was here for him or to keep up appearances. Maybe both. When court was called to order, the judge reviewed the charges. Assault, trespassing, violation of a domestic boundary. I was called first. Elise stood beside me, calm as a rock. Nathan, the judge said, tell us what happened on May 4th. I spoke clearly, carefully. I described the confrontation, the months of infidelity, the texts, the video footage, the punch that caught my jaw, the way we hit the floor, the knife I grabbed but never used. Elise handed over the surveillance clips. The judge watched the footage silently, eyes narrowing slightly at the moment Eric lunged. Then it was Eric's turn. He stood stiffly, took a breath, and cracked. I was provoked, he said, his voice tight. Nathan ambushed us. He wanted to humiliate us. Us? The judge asked. He gestured vaguely. Me, Ava. Look, I made a mistake. Okay? But that doesn't make me a criminal. You entered his home without permission, Elise said. He invited me. Eric shot back. He said it was a family thing. You were sleeping with his wife. Eric turned red. That's between me and her. The judge raised a hand. Enough. Ava never took the stand. She just sat there, eyes dull, like she was waiting for the elevator music to stop. After closing arguments, the judge reviewed the evidence and gave the verdict. Eric Daniels, you are found guilty of misdemeanor assault and unlawful trespassing. You will serve 1 year of probation, pay a fine of $3,000, and are barred from any contact with the plaintiff for a period of 2 years. No jail time, but I wasn't after that. I wanted the truth on the record. I wanted someone, anyone, to finally say it wasn't all in my head. When court adjourned, Eric stormed out without a word. Ava followed slowly, glancing back once as if she might say something. She didn't. I sat in the empty courtroom for a minute after everyone had left, just breathing, not relieved, not happy, but settled. It was done. Justice doesn't fix everything. It doesn't glue the cracks back together. But sometimes, it keeps people from pretending the cracks were never there. And that's enough. I moved across the country a month after the trial. Left Portland behind. Its gray skies, its memories, its ghosts. And took a position with a marine conservation group based in the Outer Banks. Smaller team, quieter town, more field work. Exactly what I needed. I didn't tell anyone in my family. Didn't send a group text. Didn't leave a forwarding address. Ava didn't know either. My lawyer sent the final divorce settlement papers. She signed and returned them with a one-line note. Wish it hadn't ended this way. I didn't respond. North Carolina was humid, hot, and forgiving. Mornings on the boat. Afternoons logging data. Evenings walking the beach with sand in my shoes and salt in my beard. No expectations. No surprises. Took a while to feel like I was really gone. Like I wasn't just hiding. But one morning, 6 weeks in, I was finishing coffee at a harbor cafe when I saw him. Eric. At first, I thought I was seeing things. The posture, the hair, the damn aviator sunglasses. But then he walked closer, scanned the patio, and spotted me. I froze. He walked right up to the table like we were still cousins, like we still shared birthdays and Thanksgiving stuffing. "You moved," he said, folding his arms. I set my cup down. "How'd you find me?" "I called your mom. She didn't want to tell me. But eventually." I didn't let him finish. "You're violating the restraining order. It expired 2 weeks ago." Of course he knew that. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. He sighed and dropped into the chair across from me. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry, man." I didn't answer. He went on, "I screwed up. I get that. But we were tight once, you know? I hated how it ended." "How it ended?" I said slowly, looking him dead in the eye. "It ended the moment you stepped into my house behind my back. It ended the moment you put your hands on me." Eric looked down at the table. "It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that." He leaned forward like he expected some kind of closure. "Don't you think it's time to let it go?" I laughed quietly. "Let it go? You showed up at my door to sleep with my wife. You punched me in my own home. You ruined your own life and tried to pin it on me. And now you want what, forgiveness?" His face tightened. "I just thought." "You thought wrong," I cut in. "I don't owe you peace. I gave you chances. I gave you trust. And you used both like weapons." He sat back, jaw clenched. "I'm not your family," I said. "I'm not your fallback. And I sure as hell am not your absolution." Then I stood. Left a 10 on the table for coffee I barely drank. As I walked away, I heard him call after me. "Nate, come on. You can't just erase me like that." I didn't look back. Because yes, I could. And I had. I kept walking, the marina wind in my face, the sound of gulls overhead. And for the first time since this all began, I felt something close to peace. Not because I forgave him, but because I didn't need to. The last straw came in the form of a voicemail. My mother's voice, tight with frustration. "Nathan, this is ridiculous. You've punished Eric enough. He came to you in good faith. He's family. You need to find it in your heart to forgive." No mention of Ava. No mention of the assault. Just another request for me to put the broken pieces back together like I hadn't been the one cut by them. I didn't reply. Instead, I blocked every number with my family's area code. Changed my email. Disabled social media. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. They had made their choice. Over and over again, they showed me exactly who they were. The kind of people who cared more about family optics than about family truth. The kind of people who thought loyalty meant silence. That pain was just drama. That betrayal could be brushed aside if the holidays were coming up. I used to think I had to fix things. That being a good son, a good cousin, meant staying reachable. Being the one who didn't rock the boat. But the boat had already sunk. Now I was swimming toward land. I started therapy a few weeks after I blocked them. A local woman named Kendra, mid-50s, soft-spoken, no nonsense. I told her the whole story in pieces, week by week. The texts, the surveillance video, the fight, the courtroom, the silence that followed. Kendra helped me understand something I'd always been afraid to admit. I had spent most of my adult life looking for approval from people who only gave it when I made myself small. I used to shape myself to fit them, quiet, easygoing, agreeable. Now, I sat with the discomfort of choosing something else, boundaries. One session, Kendra asked me, "Do you miss them?" I thought for a long time before answering. "I miss the idea of them," I said. "I miss the family I thought I had." That answer never changed. I kept working, kept diving, kept waking up before the sun and driving out to the docks with my coffee and gear. The ocean became my cathedral again. Deep, quiet, honest. One night, months later, I got an email from Ava. It came through a new address. The subject line was blank. "I'm sorry. I know it's too late. Just wanted you to know I never meant to hurt you that deeply. I've been thinking about you a lot. I hope you're okay." I read it once, then deleted it. Not out of spite. Not even because I hated her. But because I finally understood that healing didn't require her apology. It only required me to stop waiting for one. So I did. These days, my life is small in the best way. A quiet rental with creaky floorboards. A dog I adopted from a local shelter who likes to sit at the edge of the dock while I work. A few friends I met through the conservation center. Simple. Real. Sometimes I think about the man I was before everything fell apart. The version of me who believed love always wins if you just hold on tight enough. That man's gone, but in his place is someone steadier. Someone who knows that starting over isn't weakness. It's courage. And that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away.